What would you trade to feel forever young? Your money, your pride, or someone you love? Keep that question in your pocket while I tell you about a mother who sold the mirror and a daughter who sold the silence. This story starts in a bright studio, where a famous face goes live and then cracks. 7 seconds is all it takes for a filter to fail and for the crowd to see a real human line. The chat turns from hearts to knives, and the brand manager starts to sweat through his shirt. The woman on stage is named Evelyn Vale, and her company is called Forever Ever. She sells creams and phrases like glow from within, and she sells the idea that time can be bargained with. Behind the lights, her daughter Mara waits with a stack of cue cards and a mouth full of metal taste. Mara writes most of the words that Evelyn speaks, but no one claps for a ghostwriter. When the filter dies, Mara feels a click in her ribs, like a door unlocking. She knows something will break today, and she is right. The stream stutters, the comments spike, and someone types the sentence that will haunt the day. The sentence is short, and it says this is her real face. The sentence is cruel, and it gets 1 million likes in a minute. Evelyn smiles like the floor is glass, and she does not know where it ends. The team scrambles, and the plan is to go soft and honest and brave. Soft and honest and brave means Mara will write a post that looks like a confession and sells like a sale. She opens the brand drive for a library of past lines that did well. In a folder called Sparks, she finds a draft with a strange taste. The lines sound like her, not like her style, but like her life. One line mentions the house that smelled like hairspray and secrets. That is not a brand line, that is a sentence she once cried into a cushion. She stares at the screen and the room seems to tilt by a degree. She scrolls, and the phrases come in a trail like crumbs. There is the one about the door that never closed all the way. There is the one about the mirror you learn to avoid. She closes the laptop and hears music from the stage like a ringtone from a past she did not pick. She needs answers, and she walks to the control booth where Luca Hart sits with a headset. Luca dates Evelyn, and he manages growth like a sport. He loves graphs that go up and words like authenticity that can be sold by the ounce.
We had a blip, but the numbers are beautiful.
He waves at a dashboard where red turns to green. Mara does not look at the screen, and she asks where the Sparks lines came from.
We did market listening.
He says it with a calm voice that sounds like a wall. She asks what market sounds like her therapy.
Coincidence happens when you stare at words all day.
He laughs alone, then he reaches for a box under the desk.
This is for you. A tiny thank you for the crisis copy.
The box holds a bag that costs more than rent in most towns. She feels the silk ribbon and feels sick. She takes the bag and leaves it on a chair like a pet she does not want to keep. The show ends, the clip goes viral, and the company posts something tender and brave. The caption says, "Aging is a story we write together," and it says the brand loves you the way you are. Orders spike, and the warehouse stays awake. That should be the happy ending for this day, but the day is greedy and takes more. At midnight, an email arrives from a blocked address with a small file. Mara taps play and hears air, and then hears her own voice from years ago. She hears the sentence about the back door that sticks, and the moon that stayed up like a watchman. The clip is short and neatly trimmed. It sounds like a sample, and she feels like one. She does not sleep, and in the morning, she walks like a person moving through water. She calls her therapist and leaves a message with a voice that tries to be fine. She returns to the office and finds Evelyn in a robe, and hair clips and a smile like a bandage.
We survived that one. Now we give them a story and a serum.
Evelyn touches Mara's arm like it is a lever.
Make me something true, but not too true.
Mara nods and swallows a look she does not have time to show. The team meets to plan the new launch, which they call Skin Memory. The pitch says the body holds stories and can be taught to keep only the nice ones. Mara stares at the slide and thinks about stories that do not consent. She opens the drive again and searches for more of her own past cut into clean lines. She finds a second folder called Lullaby, and it is locked. She requests access and waits with cold hands. A minute later, a notification says granted. Inside the folder are audio files with dates from 2 years ago. She presses play and hears the hum of her old apartment, and then she hears her voice. She hears the soft questions of her therapist, and she hears the quiet she left between words. She realizes someone recorded entire sessions while she spoke about the night that split her life in two before and after. She pauses the file and thinks of the day Luca came by with podcast equipment and said they needed to test soundproofing. He had called it a favor and a future. Now it sounds like a theft. Rage walks in like a new tenant and asks for the biggest room. She copies the folder to a small drive and tucks it under the lining of her bag. She goes to Luca and tries to keep her voice level.
You look tired. We are all heroes this week.
She tells him she found the Lullaby folder.
We needed raw material for the arc.
He says arc like he means a bridge over a swamp.
No names, no harm, net good. You know how this works.
She tells him it was her room, her voice, and her trust.
We are building meaning, and meaning needs blood.
He smiles like he is sharing a secret recipe. She walks away because if she stays, she will say something that leaves a mark. She goes to Evelyn's office and closes the door with care.
If this is about the folder, I was going to tell you.
Evelyn's face is soft and bright, and then it tightens by a shade.
We will delete it after the launch. We need one big wave, and then we rest.
Mara asks why the wave must be made from her.
Because your words are honest and mine are expected.
The answer lands like a coin on a table.
1 week, and I will cut Luca out, I promise.
Mara wants to believe the promise like a child believes the light under a door, and for a moment she does. She agrees to wait 7 days, and she hates that she agrees. The week becomes a maze of short shocks and short hugs. A new clip leaks on a fan account where Evelyn's voice matches Mara's therapy cadence. Anonymous comments say the brand minds pain and sells it by the ounce. Luca blames a rogue agency, and pastries appear in the kitchen. Evelyn goes live and cries on cue, and the numbers sparkle. Each night, Mara listens to another file and learns how her pauses were turned into beats that drive sales. Her therapist writes back and says she will help and asks if Mara feels safe. Mara says yes in text and no in her bones. The launch day arrives, and the theater looks like a chapel that sells light. The aisle glows, the stage purrs, and the teleprompter waits with words that feel clean and wrong. Mara did one quiet thing last night, and it is the first time in years she picked herself over the machine. She edited the script in a way that wraps the truth in simple words that even panic can say. She put one old bedtime line at the top that only a mother and a daughter would know. The lights rise, the crowd claps, and Evelyn steps into the beam with that perfect posture that looks like trust.
When I was little, I learned to smile before I learned to sleep.
She reads the first line and stops, and the audience feels a shift. The second line starts to roll, and her voice wobbles like a glass with too much water.
I told my child to be brave for me, and I did not notice I was taking her voice to build mine.
Murmurs move through the room like a small wind. Luca fumbles with the teleprompter and tries to cut the feed.
Keep going. We can spin this.
Evelyn looks at Mara in the wings with a face that is not a brand and not a mother, but a person in a trap. She switches back to the planned lines about skin memory and glow and tries to walk around the thorn.
We value transparency, and we cherish consent.
The sentence sounds like a poster on a wall that no one reads. Mara steps out because she is tired of walls and posters. Her legs shake, but her voice is plain. she does not raise it, and that makes people lean forward. She looks at the crowd, and the lenses look back like 100 small eyes. She keeps it simple, because simple is hard to twist.
I wrote the words you heard this year, and some of them were taken from my therapy without my consent.
The room freezes, and then the phones rise like a field of thin flags.
A story can heal when it is given, and it can harm when it is taken.
Evelyn's hand lifts, then drops, and she swallows something sharp.
I am not here to cancel a person, I am here to cancel a method.
Luca moves toward the stage with a smile that asks for forgiveness in advance.
What she means is, we found inspiration in many places, as brands do, and our legal team is very careful.
Mara answers him with one short line that leaves no door open.
You bugged my home, and you sold my pain.
The audience gasps in one piece, and then it breaks into voices. Security looks at each other, and at the schedule, and then at the crowd. The stream delays, but not enough, and the clip is already on 3 platforms before the stage manager can blink. Evelyn sets her shoulders and tries to bring the boat to calm water.
We will review everything, and we will repair what we can.
She means it, and she also means she will survive, and those 2 meanings fight in her eyes. The event ends with no music, and the lobby feels like after rain. Headlines bloom by evening with words like scandal and leak and daughter. Half the comments call Mara brave, and half call her ungrateful, and all of them ask for more. Luca disappears from the office with a box, and an email from the board arrives with words like integrity and review. Evelyn's keycard still works at night, and she stands alone in the studio, and for once there is no filter to test. Mara meets with a journalist, and she brings the folder named Lullaby. She asks for one rule, and the rule is to protect any patient voice that is not hers. The reporter listens more than she speaks, and that is a rare gift. The story runs a week later in a tone that is calm and clear. It shows how companies love the word vulnerable when it moves product. It explains how consent is not a button you click at the bottom of a page. It stays away from names that do not need to be dragged through mud. Sales drop, then spike, then drop again, which is how outrage behaves. The board suspends Evelyn and hires a firm that says they fix things with ethics and decks. Mara quits with a letter that has no salt in it. She starts a small newsletter and calls it Unfiltered Room. She writes about growing up near fame and far from rest. She writes about panic that learned to make coffee and stay late. People read it at night and send notes that say thank you for using small words to talk about big things. Some notes come from former influencers who lost their faces to their feeds. Some notes come from mothers who wish they could go back and shut off a camera. A note comes from Evelyn, and it is short and strange.
I am learning to be seen by one person at a time.
Mara reads it twice and does not write back for a day. When she does, she says 2 sentences and then stops before she writes a third that would undo the first 2.
I want you to heal, and I want space while I heal too.
That is not a movie ending, but it is a human one. Months pass, and the brand tries to reinvent the word trust with a new logo and a slower tone. It half works, which is what most fixes do. Evelyn gives a talk at a small hall where the chairs squeak. She tells a room of women that fear can dress up as ambition and still be fear. She does not say her daughter's name, and she does not need to. Mara writes an essay that says, I thought I had to choose between silence and spectacle, but there is a third lane called simple truth. The essay gets shared by a few people with large followings who are tired of being large. In a grocery store line, a stranger asks Mara if the story was real. She says yes, then buys soup and goes home, and that is the best feeling she has had in a while. She sleeps through the night, and in the morning she does not check comments before coffee. The question from the start of our story is still in your pocket, and now it is time to take it out. What would you trade to feel forever young? And who would pay the bill for that trade? Here is a better bargain for anyone with a face and a past. Trade the mask for a mirror and trade performance for consent. Aging is not the enemy, secrecy is, and trauma does not rot in daylight, it roots. That is the lesson in plain words, and it fits in one breath. You can carry it with you without a bag that costs rent. Before we part one, want to talk to you like a friend who sits across the table and tells you the truth. Thank you for staying with me all the way to the end, I mean it. If this story made you think or feel or breathe a little deeper, please tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment because it helps more than you think. If you want to keep this channel alive and wild, there is a QR code on the screen and a link in the description where you can send support. You will also find links in the description to other works from a very different series, and I think you might like those too. This was Golden Thorns, and I cannot wait to see you in the next story, so take care until then, and bring your sharp mind back soon.